welcome to this week's What's for Dinner video. My name is Ashley. I'm going to be showing you 3 different meals I made during this week. I don't always follow recipes exactly, but if you are interested, I have linked some similar recipes down below. The first meal I'm going to be showing you was some popcorn chicken tacos. I'm going to start out with a couple chicken breasts. I'm just going to dice them up into about 1-inch pieces. I'm going to season them with some soy sauce. This is like my #1 marinade for fried chicken. I'm going to use some onion powder, some garlic powder, some everything seasoning. I'm then just going to add a little bit more soy sauce. I'm totally going to coat this chicken the lazy way, but I'm just going to crack 1 egg into the chicken. I'm going to stir it all together until it's all coating the chicken, and then I'm going to add my flour. And then I'm going to season the breading, so I'm just going to use some onion powder, some everything seasoning, some paprika. So now I'm just going to mix it all together and coat each piece of chicken. I'm going to add a little bit more flour and it should be ready. So I'm going to get started on chopping my toppings. I'm just going to slice up 1 jalapeno, a little bit of a tomato, and some green leaf lettuce. The toppings are totally by preference. I have seen some people use coleslaw and red onions as a topping, but I'm just going to use these ones today. Make sure you always wash your lettuce, folks. For a side, I decided to use some of the Trader Joe's sweet potato fries. We totally didn't need a side after we realized how full these tacos actually make you. So now I know whenever I make these next, I don't have to make any fries or anything. So the last step is to basically just fry the chicken. So I do have a shallow pan. I just have some oil in it on about medium heat, medium low, and I'm just going to fry them on both sides until they're golden and crunchy. So when they're done, I'm just going to scoop them out of the oil. I'm going to put them on a drying rack to cool and drip off the excess oil. And this is how they looked when they were done. Definitely a huge hit, and I just added some jalapeno ranch on top. The next dinner I'm going to be showing you is some chicken Alfredo lasagna. So I am going to start off with 4 chicken breasts in my crock pot. I'm just going to season them with some salt, garlic powder, onion powder, and then I'm going to cook them for about 20 minutes. I also do add a little bit of water when I cook chicken in my crock pot. So once it was done, I shredded up my chicken and I added in some Alfredo sauce. I do use jar Alfredo when I am going to make a casserole or I'm going to put it in the oven because dairy does just dry out very quickly, especially if you put it in the oven. So I am just going to use some jar Alfredo to make this casserole. So I'm going to start assembling the lasagna. I'm just going to use a little bit of Alfredo on the bottom. I'm then going to layer my lasagna, my chicken, and a couple sprinkles of cheese and repeat the process. I also realized it was just a lot easier to use my hands to spread out the chicken. My hands are clean. So for the top layer, I just did some Alfredo, the noodles, and some cheese. I think I had probably about 3 or 4 layers of the lasagna. So I was very generous with the cheese, and now I'm going to sprinkle some parsley and some garlic salt on top. This will go in the oven at about 350 degrees, and I did take off the foil halfway through. For our vegetable, again, I'm just going to use some broccoli. It is just what I have on hand at all times. I'm going to use my garlic lover seasoning and some garlic salt. This is how the lasagna looked when it was done. It was so delicious and definitely had enough for 2 nights. The next dinner I'm going to be showing you was a buffalo chicken baked potato. This is a new recipe for me. So I'm just taking 2 large potatoes and I'm going to salt the outside. This will go in the oven at about 400 degrees for about 50 minutes to an hour. While I put that in the oven, I'm just going to chop up my garnish, which is going to be some green onions. So I did only use 1 chicken breast for this recipe, and it was totally enough for 2 potatoes. I'm just going to add in my buffalo sauce, some ranch, and some onion powder. So I'm just going to mix this all together and make sure I shred up the chicken really good. I'm just going to set this aside until the potatoes are done. And here's my fiance coming to get a bite, like always. So again, we're going to use some broccoli as a side. I just used whatever was left over from that bag. My fiance decided he wanted some like Cajun broccoli, so I'm just going to use some Cajun Lovers seasoning and some everything seasoning. I'm also not a huge fan of broccoli. I prefer green beans, but this is just going to go in the oven at about 350 degrees. So I have made baked potatoes before, but I wouldn't say that I make them often, so cutting them again was just a little bit of a challenge. The first one came out perfect. The second one I realized I cut way too far, right about here. Not to mention these are like so hot, but I'm just going to separate them and put some butter in them, let that melt, and then add my chicken and some cheese. So I did a little bit less chicken on mine just because I didn't think I was going to eat the whole potato, but I am just going to put them back in the oven for about 10 minutes till they're melted. Thank you so much for watching this week's What's for Dinner video. Make sure you come back next week for another one.